going live. A very good evening, everybody on YouTube and on Facebook. Welcome to Live Irish Myths with me, Anthony Murphy from Mythical Ireland. I'll be with you, hopefully all going well, for around about the next hour. And make sure, wherever you're joining us from, you say hello and where you're watching from. Tonight, a little bit of an extra treat. I don't know whether you call this a treat or not. We'll see. Anyway, we'll see how this goes. I'm going to play some background music during the introduction. So I hope you're all keeping well and everybody is healthy, safe, physically distant but not socially isolated, keeping in touch with each other. We're seeing fantastic acts of community here in Drogheda and in the wider region. Some fabulous initiatives going on. Our police force, the Garda Síochána, are delivering meals to the elderly and the homeless and the sick. It's fantastic. There's a huge amount of great things happening amidst all the trouble and turmoil and the strife and the sadness and the anxiety. Hopefully we can distract you from all of that for the next hour as we return to the famous story Tochmarc Étaín, the Wooing of Étaín. Last night we had part 1 of the story. Tonight we're going to have parts 2 and 3 together. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Pull up a stool, fáilte go dtí teach ó mórchu, pull up a stool, grab yourself a dram, glass of milk or cocoa or tea, or if it's something stronger, Guinness, Harp, whiskey, porter, whatever you want, you know. John Main says, San Francisco in the house. Good man, John. Great to see you. You're the first commenter on YouTube tonight. Erica Rivertree. Banachty o Louisville in Kentucky. Enjoying a fabulous spring day here. Cool and sunny with birds and blooms abounding. Delighted to hear it, Erica, and lovely to have you along. And on Facebook, Jack Durkin is the first of tonight's commenters. Says, hi everyone. Hello, Jack. How are you keeping? Patricia McAteer, who's one of the locals, watching from Omeath in Culne, in the Cooley Peninsula, in the north of Louth. Margaret Ring is saying hello. Hi, Margaret. I think we missed you for a couple of episodes. Lovely to see you again. Yvette Tilema is saying hello. Hi, Yvette. Lovely to have you back again. And thank you for your comments on Patreon earlier. Catherine Woodruff is in central Wisconsin, warming up to 60 Fahrenheit. Don't know what that is in Celsius, but if you say it's warming up, that sounds good. Nice springtime weather, hopefully. Margaret Ring says, well done, Drogheda. Well, I'm sure it's happening all over the country at the moment. Federica Guy, hi Anthony, hi everybody, I hope you're well. Here in Italy, the lockdown was supposed to end tomorrow, but it will go on until the 13th of April. Well, keep safe, Federica, and I know it's been tremendously difficult there for you guys. But someone was saying, or a lot of people were saying, don't look at it so much as being locked in the house as being safe in the house, you know. Jack Durkin is in An Uaibh, Condonomee, Navan, County Meath. Good evening, Jack. You're very welcome to episode number 22. Daniel Welch, hello all, blessings to everyone. You're very welcome, Daniel, and good evening to you, Trononowa. Mariana Dunn says, greetings from Virginia. Sunny here. We'll imbibe in Jemson's later. A fine dram. And that's Virginia in the USA, not to be confused with Virginia, County Cavan. Dana Hicks is in San Diego. Hello, Dana. Very good evening to you. Yvette Tilema says, would you mind letting us know which book tonight? I enjoy reading along if I have it. Thank you so very much. Tonight I am reading from Ancient Irish Tales by Tom P. Cross and Clark Harris Slover. This is a reprint of an early 20th century work, originally published in 1936 and available in many different sort of modern reprints. So that's what I'm reading from tonight, Yvette. Patricia McAteer is saying hello to everyone. Margaret Mack says, hey Anthony. Hello Margaret. Hello from the Big Apple. Well, you're very welcome in from New York, Margaret. Hope you're well and safe and healthy and all that. Maeve Fiona Callahan, love that middle name, Fiona. You sound like you've got the Warriors on your side. Says it's a lovely sunny day here in Portland, Oregon, with the most beautiful clouds. Fantastic stuff. And it must be, what is it? It's 12 noon there. Wow, middle of the day. Mike Egan, Trononawa, Maine. Thank you for saying hello from Maine, Mike, and I believe it's Portland, Maine, not to be confused with Portland, Oregon. Kirsten Salisbury says, hello, Tuha tribe. Hello, Trononawa. Jiagwich, Kirsten. Vicky Wallace-Southall, hello, my lovely friends. Alex Casterton says, evening, Anthony. Nice to see you have the music too. Sorry, a wee bit late. We did the clap for the health services. Absolutely. 100% understand, Alex. No problem. As we all do too. Applaud our health services all around the world, all those medical professionals who are doing fantastic work. Nick Eska Casterton says, hi Anthony, hello all. Hi Nick, very good evening to you. Melissa Glassman is in Connecticut. Hello again, Melissa. You're very welcome along. On Cree Arch, Sláinte. Vicky Highlands. Hi Anthony, my copy of Gods and Fighting Men came today. So excited to get stuck into this. Brilliant stuff. And we will be getting back to Finn and the Fianna very soon, sometime in the coming days. Robert Arbuckle, bet ye Anthony. Hello everyone, a very good evening to ya. And Vicky says, Oregon sending love, and we will accept that and we'll spread it around. Alex says, evening Artua. Molly Michelle Kopeski, hello Anthony, I've been looking forward to this all day. Wonderful, and I hope we can live up to the billing. Matthew Byrne is watching. Hi Matt. The most local of the viewers so far here in Ruhidaha in Glannabonia. I'll switch that music off now. And that piece is Chuinu Cuchulainn from the Riverdance album, composed by Bill Whelan and very poorly played on a low D whistle by a certain fella called Murphy. Finbar Murphy, speaking of the devil. Finbar Murphy. Finbar O'Murchu says, greetings from Ondangan, or Dingle, as we might know it. You're very welcome along, Finbar. Táfáilte Roat. The Curious Celt. Hi folks, lot of tooting on car horns and clapping tonight. Absolutely, and well deserved. Erica says, Ancient Irish Tales is one of my favourite compilations of Irish mythology. I have a first edition that I got in a friend's father's bookstore about 25 years ago. Very nice purchase, Erica, and a nice treasure. Martin Hughes is watching on Facebook. So, hello and good evening, everyone. And as I say, this is Live Irish Myths. One or two things to say in terms of thanks before we start. The first is that if you saw the graphic with the beautiful woman and the horse advertising yesterday's and today's episodes, they're slightly different, the graphics, but the same base image is represented. And that is an image by Enqirue Mesegeur, who is on Pixabay. That's Pixabay.com, which is a free image resource. And that is a fabulous, beautiful picture. And it looks like we're going to be having trouble with YouTube again. I have no idea why that happens, and I do apologise, folks, but there's very little I can do about it. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to shut that down, so I'm not downloading a YouTube feed while also trying to upload one. There's just nothing that can be done about it at this point. I should also say, as usual, thanks to all of the Mythical Ireland patrons who helped to make this and everything else associated with Mythical Ireland happen. If you are interested in becoming a patron of Mythical Ireland, head on over to patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. That's patreon.com/Mythical Ireland, where you can support Mythical Ireland for as little as $1 a month. But there are higher tiers and there are different levels of reward, because yes, you do get rewards for your support. Heard a Shot on YouTube says, this is so helpful on this lockdown. Thank you so much, Anthony. Well, I'm glad that it's helping. It's helping me, and I'm glad to hear it's helping you all too. You can't beat a little bit of storytelling to put the mind at ease and to take our worries away and to bring us into other worlds. So there's a brief introduction, and just in case, if you're interested in following along and you have it, Ancient Irish Tales, Cross and Slover. I was going to say Clark and Slover. It's Tom Cross and Clark Slover, originally published in 1936. The Wooing of Étaín, in Irish Tochmarc Étaín, composed in its oldest form as early as the 8th century, is one of the most charming pieces of romantic fiction preserved from the vernacular literature of medieval Europe. Though, unfortunately, the story exists only in a series of disconnected and mutilated fragments, enough remains to illustrate admirably the highly developed style and delicate treatment of sentiment which characterise ancient Irish literature. And this is very interesting because last night, this was published 1936, and last night we read that it was only in 1937 that the complete text of the Wooing of Étain finally appeared in print, because the complete version of the story was discovered lying innocently among a part of the Yellow Book of Lecan housed in Cheltenham. So part one of the tale is actually skipped over in this translation, but the whole thing was available the year after this book was first published. In her earlier career, not recounted here, and that's the episode we did yesterday, Étain is associated not only with Mear, but also with Angus Og, a well-known supernatural personage who figures in the mythological cycle. According to the annals, her mortal husband, Yuchi Aram, became High King of Ireland about 134 BC. The Wooing of Étain is connected with the destruction of Da Derga's hostel, that's Togal Brunne Dar Derga, which we are going to treat in 2 episodes shortly coming, probably in the next week. By the fact it's too long to read in one single episode. By the fact that Étain's grandson, King Conor O'More, meets his death as a result of Yuchi's having destroyed the fairy mound of Brilé, whither Étain had been abducted by Mear. Jack Durkin says, "Hi, ma'am. It's lovely that people are meeting family and friends on here. I hope you're all enjoying the stories." So here we go. Here is the second part of the Wooing of Étain, Tochmarc Étain. There was an admirable, noble king in the high kingship over Ireland, namely Yuchi Aram. The first year after he ascended the throne, a proclamation was made throughout Ireland that the Feast of Tara was to be celebrated, and that all the men of Ireland should attend it, that their taxes and their levies might be known. Eva Anderson says, "Finally I am listening live, not the day after, listening from Gothenburg in Sweden." Hello, Eva, Fálche, and pull up a pew, pull up a chair, grab a dram and sit by the fire and have a nice evening. Kerem Gogus is watching. Hello, Kerem, lovely to see you again. Cree Arch is saying Fálche, Eva. And the one answer made by all the men of Ireland to Yuchi's summons was that they would not attend the Feast of Tara during such time, whether it be long or short, as the King of Ireland was without a wife that was suitable for him. For there was not a noble of the men of Ireland who was without a wife suitable for him. And there was not a king without a queen. And there would not come a man without his wife to the Feast of Tara, nor would there come a woman without a husband. So that was telling him. Thereupon Yuchi sent out from him his horsemen, and his entertainers, and his spies, and his messengers of the border throughout Ireland, and they searched all Ireland for a woman who should be suitable for the king in respect to form and grace and countenance and birth. And one wonders what the word was that was translated to entertainers. Was it in fact the Druids who we addressed in an episode very recently? EDT, is it T or Tia? EDT says, "How are you, Anthony? Lovely to catch another live." I'm in great form, Edie. Thank you very much. Tá fáilte Roat. It's lovely to see you. You're very welcome along to episode 22. Charlotte Epifanio says, "Hello from California." Another one from California this evening. We have 2 or 3 viewers in California. You're all very, very welcome. And besides all this, there was one more condition regarding her. The king would never take a wife who had been given to anyone else before him. 4 strands in each tress, and a ball of gold upon the end of each plait. Tracy says, hi Anthony, and hi and everyone. Good evening, Tracy. Aaron Durrett, hi friends, in late but here. Better late than never. Pull up a stool and grab yourself a dram, and let's enjoy a little bit of storytelling and a bit of conch, August, perhaps a bit of crack, Fane also. Yeah, I think that unfortunately the YouTube feed has gone down again. I have no idea what the story is there. Hopefully, I think the last time it went down, people were still able to hear, although they weren't able to see. That's no loss. So long as you can hear, that's all that matters. And the maiden was there, loosening her hair to wash it, and her 2 arms out through the armholes of her smock. As white as the snow of one night was each of her 2 arms, and as red as the foxglove of the mountain was each of her 2 cheeks. As blue as the hyacinth was each of her 2 eyes. Delicately red her lips, very high, soft and white her 2 shoulders. Tender, smooth and white were her 2 wrists, her fingers long and very white, her nails pink and beautiful. As white as snow, or as the foam of the wave, was her side, slender, long, and as soft as silk. Soft, smooth, and white were her thighs, round and small, firm and white were her 2 knees, as straight as a rule were her 2 ankles, slim and foam white were her 2 feet. Fair and very beautiful were her 2 eyes, her eyebrows blackish blue like the shell of a beetle. It was she, the maiden, who was the fairest and the most beautiful that the eyes of men had ever seen. And it seemed probable to the king that his companions, that she was out of a fairy mount, and that's likely translated from she. She was a woman of the she. Tanya Noble says, good evening to you all from Illinois. You're very welcome along, Tanya. Tá fáilte roat. This is the maiden concerning whom is spoken the proverb, quote, every lovely form must be tested by Étaín, every beauty by the standard of Étaín, unquote. A desire for her seized the king immediately, and he sent a man to his company to hold her before him. Then Yuki approached the maiden and questioned her. Whence art thou, O maiden? Said the king, and whence hast thou come? The English here is a little bit more archaic in this translation. Not hard to answer, replied the maiden. Étaín, the daughter of the king of Enqirue, out of the fairy mounds, I am called. Shall I have an hour of dalliance with thee? Said Yuki. It is for that I come hither under thy protection, said she. I have been here for 20 years, since I was born in the fairy mound. And the men of the fairy mound, both kings and nobles, have been wooing me, and naught was got by any of them from me, because I have loved thee, and given love and affection to thee, since I was a little, and since I was capable of speaking. It's a little bit in that regard, a tiny bit reminds me of the story of Deirdre, who was actually kept captive by, wasn't it, King Crohor, as a child, because he wanted to marry her when she grew up. But we won't spoil that story, because we will be telling the story of Deirdre and the sons of Uisneach. It was for the noble tales about thee, and for thy splendour, that I have loved thee, and although I have never seen thee before, I recognise thee at once by thy description. It is thou, I know, to whom I have attained, said she. That is by no means the invitation of a bad friend, replied Yuki. Thou shalt be welcomed by me, and all other women shall be left for thy sake, and with thee alone will I live as long as it is pleasing to thee. Interestingly, by the way, a lot of kings in the medieval literature have the name Yuki. Like we saw another name for Dagda was Yuki Olahar. Give me my fitting bride price, said the maiden, and thereafter let my desire be fulfilled. That shall be to thee, said the king. The value of 7 bond slaves was given to her for a bride price, and after that he took her with him to Tara, and a truly hearty welcome was given to her. Now there were 3 brothers of one blood who were the sons of Finn, Yuchi Aram and Yuchi Fedlach and Ailil Anglanach, or Ailil of the one stain. That's obviously Ainglonach, because the only stain that was upon him was that he loved his brother's wife. At that time came the men of Éireann to hold the feast of Tara, and they were there 14 days before Samhain. Halloween, and 14 days after Samhain. It was at the Feast of Tara that Ailill Anglonach fell in love with Étaín, the daughter of Étar. Ailill gazed at the woman as long as he was at the Feast of Tara. Then Ailill's wife, the daughter of Luchta Redhand from the borders of Leinster, said to her husband, Ailill, said she, why dost thou keep gazing far off from thee? For such long-looking is a sign of love. Thereupon Ailill became ashamed and blamed himself for that thing, and he did not look at Étaín after that. Aaron wants to know if yucky has a meaning in Irish. There's an interesting question. I'm sure it does, but I can't remember offhand, so I will look it up momentarily. Judy McQueen says, hello from Oregon, another viewer from the west coast of the States. As usual, very, very strongly represented. You're very welcome along, Judy. Is it from horse? On Creoch says yucky is from horse. Yes, Enqirue, which is Étain's surname, means horse rider. Let me just very quickly. Yucky. Yeah, there's a lot of yuckies. Pre-Christian sun god of the ancient Irish, horseman of the heavens. Yeah, there you go. God of lightning, and his sword is a lightning bolt. Horseman of the heavens. There you go. Fantastic stuff. Now, can I find where I was? Oh yeah, I can. After the Feast of Tara, the men of Ireland separated from one another, and then it was that the pains of jealousy and great envy filled Ailill, and a heavy illness came upon him. And we remember, don't we indeed, from a recent story about how love sickness can come upon a man, and that man in question was Angus in Ashlinga Anguso, the dream vision of Angusog, which was episode 9. Missing questions here, I think. Story sounds a bit like Tristan and Isolde, says Aaron. Yes, indeed. Tracy O'Connor says, reminds me of Macha. Can we have a telling of the story of Macha too, Anthony, if you haven't already? Well, I haven't already, Tracy, but I think it's on the list. I'll just check. I mean, Macha would be one of the... There'd be a strong association there with Morrigan, but we only did Morrigan in terms of the Cop My Chura, so I think we'll be okay. Just checking here from Macha. If it's not on the list, it will be put... Yeah, Macha and horses in Celtic mythology was suggested by Sheila Weekly Murphy. So we'll put you in there as suggesting Macha. Yeah, so that's one we can do hopefully sooner rather than later. Thanks for the suggestion. Margaret Tilston, been watching you on YouTube. Brilliant, thank you. Thanks, Margaret. Hope you're enjoying it. Garrod Irla, according to Margaret Ring, rides a horse every 7 years in Lochgur. He rises out of the lake. Well, Margaret, I'm not sure if you were watching the episode about the High Man and Garrett's Fort near RD in County Louth here, where Garrett is waiting with his enchanted army to be roused for some great battle. After the Feast of Tara, the men of Ireland separated from one another, and then it was that the pains of jealousy and great envy filled Ailill, and a heavy illness came upon him. As a result, he was carried to Dún Fremen in Tethba, the favourite stronghold of his brother, the king. Ailill remained there to the end of a year, in long sickness and in long pining, but he did not confess the cause of his sickness to anyone. And thither came Yucky to inquire after Ailill. He put his hand upon Ailill's breast, whereupon Ailill heaved a sigh. Is this some sort of a doctor's examination going on here? Callum Barrett says, sorry I'm late, just came off a call with my girlfriend. Well, Callum, you know, love comes first. Absolutely. Live Irish Myths comes second to that sort of call. I completely understand. Macha represented in Song of the Sea. Song of the Sea, is that the Are we talking about a myth, or are we talking about the movie, the animated movie, which is a beautiful film? Macha was said to turn into a warhorse too. Yes, well, we will get to that. The time when so many stories are set is Samhain, according to Federica Guy. Yes, there are some scholars who think that's retrospective, that when it came to writing them down, they were all based around Samhain. I'm not so sure about that, to be honest, you know. Tracy says, maybe she could join you here too. Maybe who could join? Sorry, I missed. I'm totally distracted now. Margaret Ring Mythflix. Yeah. Do you think we could trademark or copyright Mythflix? He put his hand upon Eilill's breast, whereupon Eilill heaved a sigh. Now, said Yuki, the sickness in which thou art does not appear to be serious. How is everything with thee? And the typical doctor-patient relationship. The first thing you need to do is chat to your patient and find out how they are. By my word, replied Eilill, not easier is it with me, but worse in all respects, every day and every night. What ails thee? Asked Yuki. By my true word, said Eilill, I do not know. Let there be brought to me someone who shall make known the cause of this illness, said Yuki. Then was brought to them Fachna, the physician of Yuki, and Fachna put his hand upon Eilill's breast, and Eilill sighed. Sorry, Anthony, replying to Callum, Ree's girlfriend. Yes, indeed. Tracy makes an excellent suggestion. Callum, bring the girlfriend along with you for the story. Aaron says, Anthony Murphy, copyright 2020, Mythflix. Yes, to Mythflix. Margaret, you're a genius. Then... yes, Fachna. This is totally distracting. I'm so sorry. I'm getting thrown off the scent of the story here. Now, said Fachna, the matter is not serious. There is nothing the matter with thee but one of two things. That is, either the pains of jealousy or love, which thou hast given, and thou hast found no help till now. Thereupon Eilill was shamed. He did not confess the cause of his illness to the physician, and the physician went from him. Now, as regards Yuki, he went out to make his royal circuit throughout Ireland, and he left Étaín in the stronghold of Fremen. And he said to her, deal gently with Eilill as long as he is alive. And should he die, said he, have his grave of sod dug, and let his pillar stone be raised, and let his name be written on it again. Sorry, in Ogham, not again, in Ogham. The king then departed on his royal circuit of Ireland, leaving Eilill there in Dunfermline in expectation of death and dissolution for the space of that year. Into the house in which Eilill was, Étaín used to go each day to consult with and minister to him. One day she asked him, what is the matter with thee? Thy sickness is indeed great, and if we knew anything that would satisfy thee, thou shouldst get it from us. It was thus that she spoke, and she sang a little lay, and Eilill answered her. As the result of their dialogue, Étaín finally understands that her brother-in-law is suffering from love of herself. Étaín continued to come every day to Eilill to bathe him and to divide his food for him, and she helped him greatly, for she was sad at seeing him perish because of her. One day she said to Eilill, come tomorrow at daybreak to tryst with me in the house that stands outside the stronghold, and there shalt thou have granted thy request and thy desire. On that night Eilill lay without sleep until the coming of the morning, and when the time had come that was appointed for his tryst, his sleep lay heavily upon him, so that till the hour of his rising he lay deep in his sleep. Oh, silly boy. And Étaín went to the tryst, nor had she long to wait ere she saw a man coming towards her in the likeness of Eilill, weary and feeble, but she knew that he was not Eilill, and continued there waiting for Eilill. And the lady came back from her tryst, and Eilill woke, and thought that he would rather die than live, and he was in great sadness and grief. And the lady came to speak with him, and when he told her what had befallen him, come, said she, to the same place to meet with me tomorrow. And upon the morrow it was the same as upon the first day. Each day came the same man to her tryst. And she came again upon the last day that was appointed for the tryst, and the same man met her. "'Tis not with thee that I trysted," said she. "Why dost thou come to meet me, and for with whom I would have met here? Neither from desire of his love, nor for fear of harm from him, had I appointed to meet him, but only to heal him, and to cure him from the sickness which had come upon him for his love of me. It were more fitting for thee to come to tryst with me, said the man. For when thou wast Étaín, daughter of the king of Enqirue, and when thou wast the daughter of Ailill, I myself was thy first husband. Why, said she, what is thy name at all, if it were to be demanded of thee? It is not hard to answer thee. Come on, folks, you tell me, what's his name? It is not hard to answer thee, he said, before identifying himself. Mere of Brilay is my name. And what made thee to part from me, if we were as thou sayest, said Étaín. Easy again is the answer, said Mere. It was the sorcery of Fuamnach and the spells of Bressel Etherlau that put us apart. And Mere said to Étaín, Wilt thou come with me? Nay, answered Étaín, I will not exchange the king of all Ireland for thee, for a man whose kindred and whose lineage is unknown. It was I myself indeed, said Mere, who filled all the mind of Ailill with love for thee. It was I also who prevented his coming to the tryst with thee, and allowed him not to spoil thy honour. After all this, the lady went back to her house, and she came to speech with Ailill, and she greeted him. It hath happened well for us both, said Ailill, that the man met thee there, for I am cured forever from my illness. Thou also art unhurt in thine honour, and may a blessing rest upon thee. Thanks be to our God, said Étaín, that both of us do indeed deem that all this hath chanced so well. And after that, Yuki came back from his royal progress, and he asked at once for his brother. And the tale was told to him from the beginning to the end. And the king was grateful to Étaín, in that she had been gracious to Ailill. And what hath been related in this tale, said Yuki, is well pleasing to ourselves. Now I think that's where part 2 ends. It is, and part 3 will shortly begin. Just bear with me one moment till I check the... Yeah, unfortunately I think the YouTubers have lost us completely. I'm not going to do what I did in previous episodes and get completely distracted by that. Unfortunately, I can't do anything about that right now. And on to part 3. But before we do that, let us just recap that we haven't missed anything. Oh, we have Graham Connolly. Sorry, I double tapped the screen. Really enjoying these episodes, Anthony. I only started listening yesterday and I'm already on episode 5. Looking forward to the rest of the titles. Fair play to you, sir. Well, that's lovely to hear, Graham. Glad you're enjoying them. You're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. It's lovely to see you. And indeed, you have the great joy now of catching up on, another 16 hours. Well, it's more than, they're generally run over an hour. So probably about 17 hours of listening in addition to this live one. So it's lovely to see you, Graham. Thanks for saying hello. Tracy says, I think we are all lovesick in some form. A longing for the love that is at the heart of the she. One we humans have long forgotten and yearn to reclaim. A love that is within us all when we remember how to find it. Very, very true. And very interesting in that regard is... an image which I probably can't find immediately, but I'll share with you at some stage. I took an image from the air a couple of solstices ago. Oh, here we go. I wonder, can I download that or share? Oh, I can share the link with you. Newgrange, the monument, is heart-shaped. It's actually heart-shaped. And so I sent out this solstice card, happy winter solstice, with love from Newgrange, the heart of the Boyne Valley. I hope you all enjoy that. Hang on now till I just paste that in. And again, apologies to the YouTube watchers. I just have no idea. I tested the speed before this episode. I had a speed of 45 upload and 45 download and 35 upload. I mean, these are great speeds. There's absolutely no reason why that should be getting disconnected. So I've no idea what the story is there, and I apologise. I will upload a clean version, either the recorded one from the YouTube software or from Facebook, onto YouTube later, so nobody will miss it, as it were. there are some people who watch on YouTube who don't have Facebook accounts. So I've just shared the link there to that picture, the heart and the love. If only we could find it, says you. Okay. On Creoch, I'm not sure what you mean by mere judge. Okay, that's what mere means. Related to Midered. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Is that another name from mythology? I'm not immediately familiar with it. I do apologise for that. And now on to part 3. Where there are no YouTube comments because actually, do you know what? I could stop. Okay, I've started that again. Just keeping the fingers crossed. That might clear it out and help. Let me just have a check on that. I do apologise for that. And now on to part 3, where there are no YouTube comments because. Okay, so it does seem to be still there, but there seems to be a much reduced interaction on the YouTube version, so I'm sorry about that again. Anyway, we shall get on presently with part 3 of the story. The technical issues we can't do much about, so I do apologise. Oh, so there are comments now that I see. David Ebel says, glad to make it to a live show. Anthony, what do you make of the Fir Bullock as hunter-gatherer people and the Tuatha Dé Danann being a herder agricultural group? Yeah, it's very interesting because you see cows and cattle entering the mythology, especially in relation to the Dé Dananns. Perhaps that's something we could cover as an episode in the future. Let me just take note of that. Sorry. We'll get on to part 3 momentarily. Fir Bullock equals hunter gatherers. Tuatha Dé equals herders, farmers, and that suggestion is from David Ebel. E-B-E-L. Is it David Ebel or David Ebel? I apologise if I have that wrong, David, but thanks a million for the suggestion. John Main says, looking good now. Yeah, with apologies to the YouTubers, I have no idea what causes this problem. Liam wants to know what's my view on the rebuild of Newgrange. Do you think it's accurate? Liam, do you know what? It's not really mythological. That's more archaeological. I mean, I would be happy to do an episode on that. Actually, I do have opinions about it. And I certainly I have strong opinions about a certain individual who's making false claims about it. But if this series continues for a long duration, which hopefully it will, I don't mean because COVID-19 goes on for long, I don't mean that at all. I mean that we can continue this long after the COVID-19 situation has been recovered from. We may be able to broaden out to topics of archaeology and astronomy, etc., etc. I do have very strong opinions about it, Liam, but not for tonight. So I'll put that down as an episode. And I see some of you are making contact privately. Lovely to see you all making connections. So part 3, here we go. Now upon another time it chanced that Yuki Aram, the king of Tara, arose upon a certain fair day in the time of summer, and he ascended the high ground of Tara to behold the plain of Breg. Beautiful was the colour of that plain, and there was upon it excellent blossom, glaring with all hues that are known. And as the aforesaid Yuki looked about and around him, he saw a young strange warrior upon the high ground at his side. The tunic that the warrior wore was purple in colour, his hair was of golden yellow, and of such length that it reached to the edge of his shoulders. The eyes of the young warrior were lustrous and grey. In the one hand he held a 5-pointed spear, in the other a shield with a white central boss, and with gems of gold upon it. And Yuki held his peace, for he knew that none such had been in Tara on the night before, and the gate that led into the enclosure had not at that hour been thrown open. The warrior came and placed himself under the protection of Yuki, and "Welcome do I give," said Yuki, to the hero who is yet unknown. And here again we have reflections of the story of the coming of Lugh, which I think we dealt with in episode 2, which is part of the story Cop Moitura, the second battle of Moitura, which we dealt with in a recent episode, and that is that Lugh came to the gate of Tara offering his services. "Thy reception is such as I expected when I came," said the warrior. "We know thee not," answered Yochi. "Yet thee in truth I know well," he replied. "What is the name by which thou art called?" said Yochi. "My name is not known to renown," said the warrior. "I am Mir of Brile." "And for what purpose art thou come?" said Yochi. "I am come that I may play a game of chess with thee," answered Mir, and chess is probably a translation from that word fichel, which is an Irish version of chess, or perhaps a precursor to chess. "Truly," said Yochi, "I myself am skillful at chess play." And again, this is I think we had a summary of this last night, didn't we? But again, the chess play goes back to Lugh when he was eventually invited into Tara. He had to perform certain feats, but he beat the king at fichel in several games. Julianne Osborne is watching. Hello, Julianne. And Liam Smith, looking forward to it. Thanks. You're very welcome. Dawn is asking, do we have any pygmy flint small cup marks on stones? I'm not really sure. That's a whole other area. And I think that we would have to get in some expertise on megalithic art to answer that one. Because I can't answer it. And I don't even know what pygmy flint is, but I know that we do have cup holes or cup marks on many stones, both in the megalithic sphere, on some of the megalithic monuments, and of course on some of the what you might call the open air rock art carvings. But beyond that, I can't really say, I'm afraid. Jacqueline Kennedy says, sorry I'm late, but hello and lots of love, guys. We've just started part 3, Jacqueline, of Tochmarc Étaín, and so hopefully you can catch up on part 2 on the video. Margaret says, chess is strategy. The Tuatha introduced it. Yes, strategy indeed. Let us test that skill, said Mir. This is when Yochi had said that he was a good chess player. Nay, said Yochi, the queen is even now in her sleep, and hers is the apartment in which the chessboard lies. He wasn't going to disturb the queen to get the chessboard. I have here with me, said Mir, a chessboard which is not inferior to thine. It was even as he said, for that chessboard was silver. There we go, somebody said silver. We're getting lots of silver tonight. And the men to play with were gold, and upon that board were costly stones, casting their light on every side. And the bag that held the men was of woven chains of brass. Mir then set out the chessboard, and he called upon Yochi to play. I will not play, said Yochi, unless we play for a steak. And I don't think he was talking about ribeye or T-bone. S-T-A-K-E. Never mind. Poor joke on my part. I apologise. It won't happen again. What stake shall we have upon the game then, said Mir. It is indifferent to me, said Yochi. Then, said Mir, if thou dost obtain the forfeit of my stake, I will bestow on thee 50 steeds of a dark grey, their heads of a blood-red colour but dappled, their ears pricked high, and their chests broad, their nostrils wide, and their hoofs slender. Great is their strength, and they are keen like a whetted edge. Eager are they, high-standing and spirited, yet easily stopped in their course. Can you guess? Can you preempt, if you haven't heard this story, can you preempt what Mir's demand of the king is if the king loses? Can you not see that plot line a million miles off? Several games were played between Yochi and Mir, and since Mir did not put forth his whole strength, the victory on all occasions rested with Yochi. But instead of the gifts which Mir had offered, Yochi demanded that Mir and his folk should perform for him services which should be of benefit to his realm, that he should clear away the rocks and stones from the plains of Meath, should remove the rushes which made the land barren around his favourite fort of Tethba, should cut down the forest of Breg, and finally should build a causeway across the moor or bog of Lowrock, that men might pass freely across it. By the way, you might be interested to hear that that same pathway across the bog is believed to be a mention in mythology of a real roadway which has been unearthed in recent decades as the Corley Bog Road, part of which is preserved in a visitor centre open to the public. Well, not at the moment, obviously, during the current restrictions. All these things Mir agreed to, and Yuki sent his steward to see how that work was done. And when it came to the time after sunset, the steward looked, and he saw that Mir and his fairy host, together with fairy oxen, were labouring at the causeway over the bog, and thereupon much of earth and of gravel and of stones was poured into it. Now it had, before that time, always been the custom of the men of Ireland to harness their oxen with a strap over their foreheads, so that the pull might be against the foreheads of the oxen, and this custom lasted up to that very night, when it was seen that the fairy folk had placed the yoke upon the shoulders of the oxen, so that the pull might be there, and in this way were the yokes of the oxen afterwards placed by Yuki. Interesting, suggesting here that in a way that the Tuatha Danann, the she-folk, were the ones who showed how to properly yoke the oxen. And thence comes the name by which he is known, even Yuki Aram, or Yuki the Ploughman. For he was the first of all the men of Ireland to put the yokes on the necks of the oxen, and thus it became the custom for all the land of Ireland. And this is the song that the host of the fairies sang as they laboured at the making of the road. Thrust it in hand, force it in hand, noble this night the troop of oxen. Hard is the task that is asked, and who from the bridging of Lowrock shall receive gain or harm. Just want to catch up. I see some comments flying up the screen there. Aaron says we love puns, Anthony. Brilliant. Okras Orlamanish. Tracy says speak for yourself, Aaron. Some people don't have any sense of humour. Part 2 of 3 is slightly more romantic than part 1. The translation, anyway, although the early modern English phrasing, thee, thou, etc. feels silly. Yes, it does, Maeve, I agree with you. Erica Rivertree says an episode on wells in myths such as Necht and Segish, Conla, etc. Oh, fantastic. Yes, what a brilliant suggestion, Erica. And that is something I could talk about for quite a while. Brilliant suggestion, yes. Okay. Maeve, but I'm waiting to hear anything of Étain's feelings about all of this. Exactly, Maeve. This seems to be written from a distinctly male perspective. Maybe Anthony should rewrite the story in a modern language. Yes, as I did with Aislinga Aingiso, which is on my website, updated from that sort of archaic English to a modern retelling. I'd be glad to do that. There's several layers of interpretation and translation over time, undoubtedly. Aaron says, the first farmers with the first yokes on the oxen, eh? Yeah, absolutely. Now, just to catch up on YouTube, my apologies to the YouTubers for the interruptions. Hi, Dad, it's Finn. FM1998. Hello, Finn. Hiya, buddy. My youngest is watching. He has an illustrious name. He also happens to be fair-haired as well. Not sure where he's watching. Oh, there he is. He's out there watching. It'll take a few seconds for the transmission to actually get to him. Hopefully he hasn't become distracted by something else. A Royal Tara Hill of Tara Ranger, whose name is Paul. It's expensive, Newgrange. Do you think they would have needed work done? Yes, a very interesting point. I did say that in Altran Chiagawathar, which is one of the stories about Newgrange, they talk about rushes being placed on it for Manannán's visit, which is interesting. And also, don't forget that we had a yesterday in the first part of Tochmarc Étaín, we had a suggestion that wildflowers and herbs were planted around the sunny bower that Angus was protecting Étaín in from Fuamnach. And of course that sunny bower is undoubtedly Newgrange. So yeah, probably they did have to maintain it, and I think that the collapse of Newgrange wasn't, as the archaeologists maintained, due to some earth tremor or hard frosts. I think it was more likely a purposeful sealing in, as it were. Not in all the world could a road have been found that should be better than the road that they made, had it not been that the fairy folk were observed as they worked upon it. I have a feeling he's out there at the kitchen table and he's watching his phone. And I have a feeling he's actually... Did you see that? I said hello. Oh, he did. I thought maybe he'd become distracted by other videos. That happens. 11-year-olds. Their attention span is perhaps not as good as some of you guys. On Grianon says on Creoch, yes. A sunny bower. I'm not exactly sure what the words were translated from. I will go back to it. Actually, I have. We're getting distracted again. I know we are. But look, these distractions are always good, aren't they? I have in my possession the Irish from Laura Mahira, the Book of the Dun Cow, which is the earliest surviving Irish manuscript, in which an incomplete version of Tochmarc Étaín can be found. And there you see the, hopefully, see for the YouTubers and for the Facebookers, is back to front Tochmarc Étaín. And so you can see there, look, there's some of the Irish there. Fuamnach be ba ben mir, simal ish bri ko milib. Imbrile malahar ro lushkeha la manadon. So you can see there the Irish, and you can guess what some of the English words are. But as I said, it is incomplete. And I think that there is reference in this to that trackway, the Corley trackway, or the causeway that had to be built across the bog. Rabbit holes are good when we get to learn from them. Yeah, I like rabbit holes. The problem is that I'm very tangential in my thinking, and I find it very hard to stay on one track. And in my research, I tend to get pulled in different directions, which is all very well when you're on your own researching for something. But when you're telling a story live and suddenly you go off on a tangent, people are sitting there going, Anthony, will you get back to the story? I'm sure. But there are lots and lots and lots and lots of rabbit holes that we can disappear down through in the duration of live Irish myths and in future episodes. Not in all the world could a road have been found that should be better than the road that they made, had it not been that the fairy folk were observed as they worked upon it. But for that cause a breach has been made in that causeway, and just bear in mind that when the English translation says fairy folk, we are talking about the Tuatha Dé Danann, the folk of the Sidhe. We're not talking about the fairies as in the late Victorian idea of diminutive beings. And the steward of Yochi thereafter came to him, and he described to him that great labouring band that had come before his eyes, and he said that there was not over the chariot pole of life a power that could withstand its might. I wonder what the chariot pole of life is. And as they spoke, I'm just thinking about an Axis Mundi, something like the Billa, the sacred tree, I don't know. And as they spoke thus with each other, they saw Mir standing before them. High was he girt, and ill-favoured was the face that he showed, and Yochi arose, and he gave welcome to him. Thy welcome is such as I expected when I came, said Mir. Cruel and senseless hast thou been in thy treatment of me, and much of hardship and suffering hast thou given me. Yes, I think whoever suggested it was a Tracy or someone. I think this will have to be. I think I'll have to get my pen to work on this. This is a project that I can get working on in my spare time. I may rewrite this into more modern English. All things that seemed good in thy sight have I got for thee, but now anger against thee hath filled my mind. I return not anger for anger, answered Yochi. What thou wishest shall be done. Let it be as thou wishest, said Mere. Shall we play at the chess, said he. What stake shall we set upon the game, said Yuki. Even such stake as the winner of it shall demand, said Mere. And in that very place Yuki was defeated, and he forfeited his stake. My stake is forfeited to thee, said Yuki. Had I wished it, it had been forfeited long ago, said Mere. What is it that thou desirest me to grant, said Yuki. That I may hold Étaín in my arms and obtain a kiss from her, answered Mere. You saw that coming, didn't you? Yuki was silent for a while, and then he said, 1 month from this day thou shalt come, and that very thing that thou hast asked for shall be given to thee. Now for a year before that, Mere first came to Yuki for the chess play. Had he been at the Wooing of Étaín, and he obtained her not, and the name which he gave to Étaín was Befind, or fair-haired woman, so that it was said, Wilt thou come with me, fair-haired woman, as has before been recited. And it was at that time that Étaín said, If thou obtainest me from him who is the master of my house, I will go. But if thou art not able to obtain me from him, then I will not go. And whereupon Mere came to Yuki, and allowed him at the first to win the victory over him, in order that Yuki should stand in his debt. And therefore it was that he paid the great stakes to which he had agreed, and therefore also was it that he demanded of him that he should play that game in ignorance of what was staked. And when Mere and his folk were paying those agreed-on stakes, which were paid upon that night, to wit, the making of the road, and the clearing of the stones from Meath, the rushes from around Tethba, and the forest that is over Breg, it was thus that he spake, as it is written in the book of Drumsnechte. Pile on the soil, thrust on the soil, red are the oxen who labour, heavy the troops that obey my words, heavy they seem, and yet men are they. Strongly as piles are the tree trunks placed, red are the wattles abound above them. Tied are your hands, and your glances slant. One woman's winning this toil may yield. Oxen ye are, but revenge shall see. Men who are white shall be your servants. Rushes from Tethba are cleared. Grief is the price that the man shall pay. Stones have been cleared from the rough Meath ground. Whose shall the gain or the harm be? Now Mere appointed a day at the end of the month when he was to meet Yuki, and Yuki called the armies of the heroes of Ireland together, so that they came to Tara, and all the best of the champions of Ireland, ring within ring, were about Tara, and they were in the midst of Tara itself, and they guarded it, both without and within, and the king and the queen were in the midst of the palace, and the outer court thereof was shut and locked, for they knew that the great night of men would come upon them. And upon the appointed night Étaín was dispensing the banquet to the kings, for it was her duty to pour out the wine, when, in the midst of their talk, they saw Mere standing before them in the centre of the palace. He was always fair, yet fairer than he ever was seemed Mere to be upon that night. And he brought to amazement all the hosts on which he gazed, and all thereupon were silent, and the king gave a welcome to him. Thy reception is such as I expected when I came, said Mere. Let that now be given to me which has been promised. 'Tis a debt that is due when a promise hath been made, and I, for my part, have given to thee all that was promised by me. I have not yet considered the matter, said Yuki. Thou hast promised Étain's very self to me, said Mere. That is what has come from thee. Étaín blushed for shame when she heard that word. Blush not, said Mere to Étaín, for in no wise has thy wedding feast been disgraced. I have been seeking thee for a year with the fairest jewels and treasures that can be found in Ireland, and I have not taken thee until the time came when Yuki might permit it. 'Tis not through any will of thine that I have won thee. I myself told thee, said Étaín, that until Yuchi should resign me to thee, I would grant thee nothing. Take me then for my part, if Yuchi is willing to resign me to thee. But I will not resign thee, said Yuchi. Nevertheless, he shall take thee in his arms upon the floor of this house, as thou art. It shall be done, said Mir. He took his weapons in his left hand, and the woman beneath his right shoulder, and he carried her off through the smoke hole of the house. And the hosts rose up around the king, for they felt that they had been disgraced, and they saw 2 swans circling round Tara, and the way that they took was the way to the elf mound of Femin, or Shiar Femin. And Yuchi, with an army of the men of Ireland, went to the elf mound of Femin, which men called the Mound of the Fair-Haired Women. And he followed the counsel of the men of Ireland, and he dug up each of the elf mounds that he might take his wife from thence. And Mir and his host opposed them, and the war between them was long. Again and again the trenches made by Yuchi were destroyed. For 9 years, as some say, lasted the strife of the men of Ireland to enter into the fairy palace. And when at last the armies of Yuchi came by digging to the borders of the fairy mound of Brilé, Mir sent to the side of the palace 60 women, all in the shape of Étaín, and so like to her that none could tell which was the queen. And Yuchi himself was deceived, and he chose instead of Étaín her daughter Mesbochala, or as some say Essa. But when he found that he had been deceived, he returned again to sack Brilé, and this time Étaín made herself known to Yuchi by proofs that he could not mistake, and he bore her away in triumph to Tara, and there she abode with the king. Another version of this story adds, it was on this account that the fairy folk of Mag Breg and Mir of Brilé broke the taboos of Conera and ended his life that brought about the laying waste of Mag Breg, because of the destruction of Brilé and Yuchi Aram's taking away Étaín by force. So there you go. And Alex says, sorry, my apologies. Alex says, 2 swans, Angus Ogan care, exactly. Mir and Étaín transform into 2 swans to escape through the smoke hole in the roof at Tara, and that's how they escape. The same similar sort of shape changing transformation. Thus ends Tochmarc Étaín, and that is from Ancient Irish Tales by Cross and Slover. And I shall put its dust jacket back on. Margaret says she got back to Tara. Yay. Yeah, well, I hope that she wasn't reduced to the menial task of pouring wine for the men at Tara. One could talk about sexism in Irish mythology as an episode, perhaps. Astro Gypsy. I visited Sedona, Arizona, looking for them. I didn't find any working portals, but places of power are a long passion of mine, certainly. I'll have to Google. Yeah, places of power indeed. The Hill of Tara is, of course, one of those very great places of power. Okay. Aaron is talking about my copious free time. Well, yes. When I'm not doing live Irish myths and working, shiny things, arrogant, or yes, silver and gold. I'd be very happy to take questions or comments, or just to have a little bit of a chat with you. We've just gone over the hour, and it's been a lovely time as usual. Lovely interaction going on between some of you there. Just trying to think about what's coming in terms of episodes. We're going to sooner rather than later. I'm going to return to the Fin and the Fianna, lest we get too disconnected from that. But there's loads and loads to choose from. I have a very, very long list here, and it's getting longer each day. Oh yes, Scota was one of the early ones suggested by Maureen O'Leary, which we haven't got round to yet. So perhaps we'll do Scota, in the next few days. Queen Maeve is another of the early suggestions that we haven't done, so we'll have to do that. Deirdre and the Sons of Ishnok is a long story that may have to be split into 2 or 3 episodes. Also, Togal Brunja da Durga, the destruction of da Durga's hostel, is also a lengthy one that will require 2 or 3 episodes. But I know you'll all be along gladly for that. The burning of Din Rig was another suggestion made by Andrew Byrne, and the intoxication of the Ulstermen, although that's part of Toynbee Coolnge. And I wonder if we get stuck into Toynbee Coolnge, if we shouldn't just sort of maybe start it, do 2 or 3 episodes of it, take a break with something else and go back to it and do another 2 or 3 episodes. I'll have to think about that. Laura Gawala and the arrival of the Tuatha De Danann in particular, and the Milesians, are 2 episodes that we have to do. Turning into animals is a suggestion. Sacred trees, the mythology of Douth and Nouth and Newgrange, probably 3 separate episodes, at least 2 anyway. We could do Nouth and Douth perhaps in 1. Eru, and we could do Eru in conjunction with Banba and Fola, which will cross over into the Laura Gawala episode, but I think we should treat Eru on her own. Margaret says, I'm working in Mullingar at the moment. The swans on the canal there are amazing. They fly up the canal every day. I love them. I imagine at this stage that the whooper swans, which come to Brunabonia, have returned to Iceland. Alex says, sorry, I'm trying to see more. And it keeps... I can't see more. For some reason, I can't see more. Okay, I'll have a look at it on the... I seen one source saying Étaín was daughter of Dian Cecht, as well as a sun deity too. What would your views of this be? As well as the story of Tír na nÓg, the goddess that loved Oisín in the other world. Some versions say was Étaín. You mean Niamh? Oh yeah, sure. I don't have to. I have it here. Let me just return to Étaín in the Oxford in MacKillop to see just whether there are any Dian Cecht. Yes. Sometimes. Doesn't seem to mention the connection with Dian Cecht there, Alex. That doesn't mean it's not. Yuki, wife of Yuki Aram, lover of Mir. His name is widely cited in there. She may have originally been a sun goddess. Suggested links with Epona of the continental Celts. She may have originally been a sun goddess, as T.F. O'Rahilly asserted. Étain's divinity persists in Tochmarc Étaín, even though her story has her reborn. Yes, we were talking about that, weren't we? About the rebirth theme. The fact that she was swallowed in a cup. Wasn't that at the end of the first version? Actually, I didn't read that last night because I thought it would be repetition, but perhaps it's worth just reading tonight, just as a means of finishing last night's tale. Thereafter Étaín was brought up by Etar at Inber Kirchmanna, and 50 chieftains' daughters were reared along with her, and they were fed and clothed for the purpose of attending Étaín at all times. One day, when all the girls were bathing at the mouth of the river, they saw a rider coming towards them from the plain. His horse was broad and brown, prancing, with curly mane and curly tail. He wore a green cloak of the Sidhe and a tunic with red embroidery, and the cloak was fastened with a gold brooch that reached to either shoulder. A silver shield with a rim of gold was slung over his shoulder, and it had a silver strap with a gold buckle. In his hand he carried a 5-pronged spear, we heard that tonight, with a band of gold running from butt to socket, etc., etc., etc. The young warrior rode away then, and they knew neither whence he had come nor where he had gone. The mock Og went to speak with Mir, but he did not find Fuamnach there. Mir said to him, Fuamnach has lied to us, and if she hears that Étaín is in Eru, she will go to do her harm. Étaín has been at my house in the brew for a while now, said the Machog, in the form in which she was blown away from you, and it may be that Fuamnach has gone there. Oh yeah, Machog returned to the house with the crystal bower, and Étain was not in it. He followed Fuamnach's trail until he overtook her at Éanach Bovni, at the house of the druid Bresel Etterlaw, and there he attacked her and struck off her head and took it back with him to Brunabónna. Wow. So Fuamnach ended up losing her head at the end of episode 1. Yochu Aram became king of Eru, and the 5 provinces of the country submitted to him. And the king of each province, Cruhor son of Mesgegra, Tirnach, Taitbandach, Cúri, and Ailil son of Mata Murishk. Echu's forts were Dun Freymand in Media and Dun Freymand in Tethbay. And of all the forts in Eru, Dun Freymand in Tethbay was the one he loved most. The year after he became king, Yochu ordered the men, that's Yochi, it's a slightly different spelling, all the men of Eru to hold the Fesh of Chower. Yeah, and so then we were back into it. But what was the bit? Wasn't there a part where, in one version, she was swallowed as a worm or a fly and reborn? Which reminds me of Setanta's rebirth, that when Dectana has been told by Lugh that he appeared to her in a dream at Brunabónna and said she was going to have a child, that she drank a worm in a cup that ended up putting the baby into her belly or something like that. Erica Rivertree, the settling of the manor of Tara, brilliant, yes. Containing reference to one of my favourite characters of Irish mythology, Fintan MacBóchra. Settling of the Manor of Tara is down now as an episode suggestion. Anyway, sorry, I wormholed there again, didn't I? I went way down a rabbit hole too far. How interesting, as Venus was at the centre of the Pleiades a few days ago. Actually, Tracy, I think Venus is going to be at the centre of the Pleiades on the 4th of April, which is 2 days from now. Just going to check that on Stellarium while I'm talking to you. It's very close anyway. Alex says, oh yes, you do have to be careful where you see sources. Thank you for checking though. Yeah, you see stuff online pertaining to Irish and Celtic mythology, and if it doesn't have references and footnotes that you can follow, you need to go and find another source. You need to be able to find what was the source, who's translating, where is it coming from, is the source a genuine one, or is it somebody kind of making it up as they go along. Venus is at its maximum elongation from the sun. This happens once in 8 years, and it becomes that really brilliant evening time object. Right now, Venus is very close to the Pleiades, just immediately underneath. Now, if I just forward by 1 day, yes, Venus is actually in the Pleiades tomorrow. Tomorrow night, Venus is in the Pleiades. Actually, by the 4th, it's moving to slightly above. Tonight, it's beneath. Tomorrow, it's in. And so the 3rd of April, folks, maybe tomorrow evening, remind us all when Live Irish Myths is ending, that we should all go outside and look up at the sky. Just making sure I haven't missed any. Green cloak of the She, interesting, a good way to identify them. Well, cloaks are interesting in general. You have the Feth Fiada of Manannán, the cloak of invisibility, which keeps the Dedanans invisible from mortal eyes. And you also have Bridget's cloak, which stretched out to form or to cover when she wanted land for her to graze her cattle on from the King of Leinster. And he said to her, you can have as much as your cloak covers. And when she put the cloak on the ground, it extended and covered the whole plain of the Curragh. Aaron says, wouldn't it be fascinating to rewrite these tales with the roles of the sexes reversed? My husband has directed many of Shakespeare's plays done this way. Yeah, it would be interesting, actually. What would also be interested is to see some more up-to-date translations of the old Irish works. And to see if perhaps some of the sexism that's there and some of the antiquated language would disappear in a new translation, you know. There would be a lot of eye-rolling, I would imagine, says Margaret. I think so. On Cree Arch says, bring back the 5th province. Just between us, the province never went away. Love it when you go down the rabbit hole, says Wendy. Yeah, and there's so much stuff there behind it, so easy to get distracted. Gwion Bach was pecked up as a grain by Ceridwen, and she became pregnant by it and was then reborn by her and became Taliesin. Very interesting. There you go. There's another similarity in Celtic mythology. Kerem says misleading info is really bad and there's lots of it on the net, and just like everything that you see in terms of fake news and stuff on the internet and conspiracy nonsense, people share it without questioning the veracity of it, unfortunately, and that's how it gets propagated. You have to go back to the sources, and the sources, unfortunately fortunately for people like me, but unfortunately for the people who don't do the research, the sources are medieval, thanks to the scribes who wrote all this stuff down. We don't have to worry about the veracity of the sources. Get a photo, Anthony. Get a photo of what? Yeah, you see, I'm reading some of these comments after the fact, and I'm not sure what they refer to. I'm very sorry, Maeve. I don't know what you're talking about. Get a photo of Margaret Ring. Dronehenge is taking amazing photos of it, Anthony. Margaret, he fills the roles in the plays according to who the kids are in his classes. Most are young women. Brilliant. Cork Naman Abu. Wonder how much Tolkien inspired from Irish mythology while writing The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. I remember reading a Sunday newspaper article about that a few years ago, Kerem, that claimed quite a lot more than Tolkien ever admitted to, interestingly. Do you have anything from Manannán Mac Lir on your list? I was just about to say we did Manannán, didn't we? But no, I can't remember. We did Manannán. Hang on till I just scroll down through. Yes, we did. Episode number 10, Molly. So if you go to... all the episodes are in one place on the Mythical Ireland blog, which I'll just paste in there as a comment here on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you go to... or on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Mythical Ireland, it's episode number 10, Manannán Mac Lir. God of the Sea. Like the adventure of Cormac MacArt. Cormac MacArt is on the list for an episode, so we will be doing Cormac. Oh, a photo of Venus in the Pleiades. Of course, Maeve. I'm sorry, yes. Now I know what you're talking about. Yeah, maybe tomorrow, just as we're wrapping up tomorrow, maybe if somebody prompted us to, well, those of us who are in Ireland, because I know if you're in the States you'll be waiting a number of hours before nightfall, but those of us who are in Europe could go out perhaps and take a photo and have a look at Venus in the Pleiades. Kerem says, that is why I stick with old books even when it comes to self-development. Yeah, I think that well, I think so long as your sources are good, scholarly sources, and that they're translating. Don't forget, Morgan taught us, I thought, a very valuable lesson 2 nights ago when we dealt with the Morrigan, in that the 2 translations of Caught My Chura, which are by Elizabeth Gray and Whitley Stokes, there were sections that they had basically declined to translate because the language was obscure, and Morgan made a brave attempt. And whether the scholars agree with Morgan and whether other old Irish experts would agree or not is not, I think, the immediately relevant point. The point is that she tried to make a translation, that she's been doing this for a long time, and it paints Morrigan's role as being more important in the story than we would have gleaned from the older translations, and perhaps again returning to the theme of sexism, perhaps that might have been an issue, but not necessarily. I'm not trying to castigate Stokes or Gray, who were brilliant scholars in their own time. Balor's Hill at 4. Hello Anthony, how are you? Says Adele Perth, Game of Thrones too. Hi Adele, how are you? And it's great to see some of our Australian viewers in. I imagine it's morning time there, and so I trust you're keeping well and that you're physically distanced but not socially isolated and keeping in touch with everybody. Yeah, we've done Manannán. More. What's the significance of Venus in pleasure? I presume that's autocorrect from Pleiades, if you have time. Not sure that there's an immediate significance. in terms of Irish mythology. Yeah, the Pleiades. Yeah, autocorrect. It can be a pest. But the Pleiades, in Irish, the Pleiades, one of the names for the Pleiades was the wren, which I think is fascinating. You know, that little bird for which the hunting of the wren was done on St. Stephen's Day traditionally. A small bird with a tiny tail. The ran, the king of the birds. In relation to Douth, the Pleiades are interesting. Let me just paste it in as a link so that you can go down the rabbit hole yourself, Graham, and those of you who are interested. There's an interesting connection there. The stone of the seven suns and a possible heliacal rising of the Pleiades in the Neolithic at the time of the equinox. Venus is interesting because it has an 8-year cycle, and in those 8 years it goes through 5, on Drolene, exactly, on Crioch. It goes through 5 synodic periods where it appears, in each of those 5 periods, it appears as a morning star and an evening star. And in its current iteration as the evening star, it is at its maximum elongation, eastern elongation from the sun. In other words, its maximum separation. What that means in plain English is that there is no time other than now and in another 8 years and another 8 years when you will see Venus quite so far from the sun. In other words, you'll see it for much longer in the evening sky, because in other iterations it's closer to the sun and only appears briefly as the twilight wanes to black and then it dips below the horizon. This is its maximum elongation. This is the peak western appearance of Venus in the 8-year cycle. Anyway, folks, it's been a lovely night. Thank you all for dropping in to say hello. It's heartwarming that you are many of the regulars are in, and we're all the time seeing new viewers from different parts of the world. Lovely to have you along. Look, we're trying to keep our spirits up, and I think doing a good job of it, distracting ourselves nicely by delving into old Irish stories. There's lots more to come. So long as we are able, we will. In the meantime, make sure that you keep washing your hands very well for 20 seconds or more, half a minute. Keep your distance from people, 2 meters or 6 feet if you're in old money. If you're over 70 and you're living in Ireland, you have to cocoon, which means that you should really be staying indoors and minimising contact with humans. I know that's difficult. Hopefully you have a grip of the technology and you're able to make connections like this. And I see other people doing this, by the way. I'm not the only one. So there's lots of stuff on there that you can do to interact with people, and it's almost as good as being in the room with them, except for we can't have a handshake and a hug and all the rest. So good night to you all, and we'll see you tomorrow for episode 23. I'll announce the subject matter of tomorrow's episode sometime around the middle of the day. Today I announced today's episode early, before 11 a.m. this morning. Just keep an eye out on the Mythical Ireland Facebook page and on the Mythical Ireland community on Facebook and on the Twitter feed for the subject. In the meantime, thank you for all the lovely interaction, all the questions and the comments. I'm sorry for those who asked questions that I kind of couldn't really address tomorrow. But if you want, if you want, we can get back to them. So just remind me of them maybe later. In the meantime, Ichawa, no matter where you are, fud an dawan, and sláinte, and good health, and be in good stead until we see you again, hopefully tomorrow. This is Live Irish Myths, episode number 22. Good night. And good night, YouTubers.